So I want to address a question that was asked of me. And I got my phone here because I want to read the question. It says, do you have any videos on the black mentality? Remember that part, black mentality. Like, why drug dealers see that as their only hustle, and why women strip and prostitute themselves to make ends meet. Now, first we have to deal with the first part of that question, which is dealing with the so-called black mentality. Now, the Akal Wu describes the oppressed as a mirror. And the mirror only reflects a thing, but it's not the thing that it's reflecting. The oppressed are reflecting the mentality of the oppressor. If we look back at the difference between the house slave and the field slave, yeah, we're going to go down that road again. Why not at the 50th anniversary of Malcolm X's assassination? This is the 50th anniversary of the assassination of Malcolm X. And he so eloquently described the field Negro and house Negro. But can you imagine? The house Negro has a job. He has a better job. She has a better job than the field Negroes. She has a more comfortable job than the field Negroes. All of them are slaves now. So maybe we should say house slave, field slave, because all of them are slaves. All of them are under white supremacy. So the house slave wears a suit, wears a tie. The female has a nice dress on. They speak a little better than the field slaves. They have learned to capitulate a little more than the field slaves. They've learned to get along better with the slave master than the field slaves. The house slaves were a little more comfortable than the field slaves. So can you imagine a house slave saying, you know what, you shouldn't have to do what you're doing. If you put on a suit and tie, if you put on a nice dress, learn how to speak the master's language, if you learn better manners, become more mannerable, if you learn the ropes of how to work in the house, you too can have a job in the house. Here's a house slave encouraging the field slaves to improve themselves so they can get a job working in the house. The house slaves sometimes lived right next to the slave master, when the field slave lived out there in the shack somewhere. Today we call it the ghetto. And the house slaves live out in the suburbs somewhere in a nice house. Or even if they're up there in the city with the master, they got a nice house. But the field slaves live in a shack or in a ghetto. And we say, you know what? I see you got them cornrows. I see you got them locks. I see you got the afro. You know, if you straighten your hair a little bit, if you're a female, straighten your hair. Don't wear no African hairstyles. Get you a straight blonde wig. Learn how to speak good diction. You'll be able to get a job working in the house. The house slave is encouraging the field slaves to get a job working in the house so that they too can be comfortable with their slavery experience. We are all prostitutes to some degree, and we're all drug dealers to some degree. We're strippers to some degree. We'll do whatever it takes to get that money. I'm not saying that the field slave is better off than the house slave. I'm not saying that the field slave is more free than the house slave, or the house slave is more free than the field slave. I'm saying that we all slaves. Don't tell me how to get to the house unless you show me where the matches are first. We all teach our children. Go to school, cut off your natural hair, speak with the white man's accent, because they don't all have, or speak, as they call it, good English. But if you speak with the white man's accent, if you learn how to get along with them, then you can get a job working in the house too. In fact, you can even live in the house with the slave master. We're all prostitutes and drug dealers to some degree. And the white man is our pimp or our supplier. Some of y'all might say, I'm not no drug dealer. I work for CVS. So you're a legal drug dealer. There's no difference between a legal drug dealer and an illegal drug dealer. Just like there's no difference between a house slave and a field slave. All of them are slaves. All of them are working and helping to sustain and maintain white supremacy. So it's hard for me to answer the question because I'm not seeing this black mentality. I'm seeing a reflection of a white mentality in the black people. I'm seeing the oppressed mimicking the oppressor. But it's the oppressor's mentality. I heard Dr. Boyce, what's his name? Watkins, whatever his name is, trying to encourage folks to get a business and have people do the work for you. That's the slave master's mentality. How about we get out there and do the work together? Huh? How about we come to an agreement about a certain situation? Don't make me do all the damn thinking. Don't make me do all the work. I used to be one of them people. That's why I left the black conscious community, so-called conscious community, back in the mid to late 90s. It was too much damn talking. I'm ready to work. Let's get this work on. Oh, this the way we do it? Let's go do it. People still running their mouth. I said, these people ain't serious. That's why I gravitate now towards folks that I see putting in work. We are intelligent enough. We have enough information. We got enough education. Hell, I didn't have that much education. And once I just got a little bit, it was like, oh, okay, this is what we got to do. This is the situation. Oh, we still slaves? Let's get up out of here. Wasn't nobody trying to get up out of here. I can't do it by myself. These individuals that you see scattered around the country, they can't do it alone. But it's going to take a group of us to actually be willing to put in the work. I was just telling a brother of mine the other day about how growing food is work. It ain't like studying. With studying, you can say, I'm going to read this. I'll read that later. I'll read that next week. Growing food, you got to be on it. You got to observe your plants. Oh, this plant looks like it got a little disease. I got to try to handle that real quick. It might take you a few days to handle the disease problem. The soil is dry. We need to make sure we get some water in these plants. There's too much water in there. We got to make sure the water is drained off of the plants. It's ongoing work. as long as we are slaves, the house slave can't encourage the field slave how to get in the house, and the field slaves out there shouldn't be encouraging the house slaves to come out in the field. Everybody should be trying to get off the plantation. So I can't say that a field slave method of survival is any less or better than a house slave's method of survival. So all we trying to do as slaves is survive. So the field slave will teach you how to survive in the field, and the house slave will teach you how to survive in the house. But what we really need to do is destroy the plantation. I'm no better than the prostitute on the street. I'm in the house, I'm a house slave. The field slave is in the field, they're no worse off than me. This has been Daku Akabo Wa Akatu.